The Ninth Gate is a confusing movie. Mysterious characters are introduced without pretext. Then there's the gates themselves, they're not explained. Is Dean Corso opening them? Is he letting in the devil? What's going on in the Ninth Gate? It doesn't matter how carefully you follow the movie. You're not going to get any clear-cut answers to many mysteries within it. What I'm going to do is cheat. If we could find the story which inspired the Ninth Gate, then we could get the missing pieces and see what the devil's all about. First, a recap. The Ninth Gate revolves around the protagonist Dean Corso, who's sent on a mission by Vulcan to authenticate a book supposedly meant for summoning the devil. Authentication leads Corso to increasingly tragic events. At some point, financial motivation is overtaken by the desire to solve the mystery of the Nine Gates. Eventually, he gets all the pieces of the puzzle and witnesses the summoning ritual performed by Vulcan. The ritual didn't work. Corso had sex with the green-eyed woman, and he steps into the light. It looks like Corso got some answers, but we didn't. Did he open all of the gates? Was he even opening them? The only person who is using the book to try to do something is Vulcan. Then there's the green-eyed girl, who's trying to be Corso's Robin. At least that's how she appears. Her motivation and role isn't really revealed. The answers aren't in the movie. But I know of a story which has the basic elements of the Ninth Gate. Whenever I hear of devil and summoning in the same sentence, I think of the Book of Revelation. In it, Jesus, referred to as Lamb, is opening the seals. Every seal he opens lets in a force for chaos and destruction. Once all of the seals are opened, the Satan is free. It's clear that there are similarities between the two stories. In one, you get seals, in the other, gates. By opening them, you get to conjure up the devil. The basic plot is similar, but it would have to be more than just similar to fill in the missing pieces. Before we compare the process of summoning the devil in both books, let's look at the second book. Nine Gates of the Kingdom of Shadows is a fictional book written by a fictional author, Aristide de Torchia, and in it he allegedly hid the secret of summoning the devil. The secret is hidden in 9 engravings and words of wisdom written below them. In each one of the 3 existing copies of Nine Gates, only 3 engravings are authentic. If you get all 3 books, then you get all 9 authentic engravings. With all engravings, you can, somehow, summon the devil. The most obvious difference between the stories is the number of things you have to do to get to the devil. In one it's 7, in the other 9. Things don't look that much better if we compare the message displayed in the engravings and their adjacent subtext with the text of the 7 seals. It's quite apparent there's not much in common. By opening the first seal, the Lamb is letting in the conqueror, who then goes on conquering. The first engraving depicts a knight heading towards a castle, hardly a conqueror. The text below is even more unfitting. Silence is golden. I'm going to spare you some time. The rest of the gates and seals have very little correlation. The Book of Revelation predicts a collapse of a civilization. Correspondingly, breaking the seals lead to nationwide catastrophes. On the other hand, messages on their engravings are meant for an individual. There are no parallels between the seals and the gates themselves, but there might be parallels somewhere else. While the seals do not correspond to the gates, they might correspond to the movie itself. By opening the first seal, the Lamb lets in the conqueror. Well, the man who starts the chase for the devil is Vulcan. He's a conqueror in his own right, isn't he? Vulcan is defined by his desire for power. He's already rich and high status, he's already powerful, but it's not enough for him. He wants to conquer the world. The person opening the seal is called the Lamb, which is a reference to the naive aspect of Jesus. Jesus being the protagonist of the Bible. Corso is the protagonist of Ninth Gate, and he stumbles in his adventure rather naively as well. The parallels here are pretty good. By opening the second seal, the Lamb lets in a character who stirs up murderous levels of trouble between people. If we are going chronologically, then the second character Corso met was Lyanna Telfer. Just as Vulcan, she's also trying to summon the devil. Lyanna's influence on Corso is rather singular. From seducing him, to assaulting him, to trying to steal the 9 gates. Everything Lyanna does introduces chaos in Corso's life. She fills the role of the horseman of the second seal well enough. Is there a pattern here? Are there parallels between the third seal and the movie? The third seal lets in a trader who cheats people out of their possessions. This is where there's no equivalent in the movie. What we ought to see is a character that tries to cheat people out of their possessions. But we don't. There's no equivalent to the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th seal either. Does it then mean that the parallels between the first 2 seals were a coincidence and the movie has nothing to do with the Book of Revelation? I doubt it. The Book of Revelation has more chapters than those devoted to the seals. From the chapters on the great prostitute and the beast, we can see the most striking reference to the book. Look at the image of the 9th seal from the 9 gates, and look at the description of the whore of Babylon from the Book of Revelation. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. Apart from the beast in the movie having 14 horns, the description fits perfectly. This is too much alike to be a coincidence. It looks like somebody got inspired from the Book of Revelation. Then does this help us find answers to the mysteries? To some degree it does. The similarity between the stories already helped us figure out the nature of Bolkon and Lyanna. But the nature of the Green Eyes chick is rather perplexing. Green Eyes showed up out of nowhere, and she began aiding Corso in his quest. It doesn't take a genius to see that the girl looks exactly like the woman riding the beast on the 9th engraving. In the Book of Revelation, the woman riding the beast is described as the Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. The weird sex scene at the end of the movie adds to the case. In the Book of Revelation, the whore of Babylon is part of the team Satan. In the 9th gate, Green Eyes is aiding Corso in his journey. If she's helping Corso and she wants Satan to arise, then does it mean that she's helping Corso open the gates? Is he opening the gates? Well, we know for sure that he didn't open all of them. The point of opening the gates is to conjure the devil in flesh. Did you see the devil rising? I didn't. Which must mean that he didn't open all of them, or he wasn't opening them at all. Now we could look at the engravings again and figure out whether Corso went through the gates. We could assume that you go through them by acting them out. For example, if the text under the engraving says victory belongs to the brave, then you go through the gates by being brave. Fortunately, I don't need to go through the 9th gate more times than I already have. A YouTuber Gaze for You already did that. In short, I think his analysis is good but flawed. Some of his explanations for how Corso acted out going through the gates are legit. For others, you need to suspend any critical thinking you possess. In both of our analyses, the parallels are too consistent to be a coincidence, and yet in both cases, the parallels dry up. Usually, I avoid reading producers' or story writers' commentary on their own work. But this time, that's really where the answer is hidden. The producer of the 9th gate was Roman Polanski. Polanski is a producer who focuses on aesthetics and acting more than anything else. Without doubt, the 9th gate presents beautiful scenes, harmony between the nature of the characters and their environment. All of that is a masterpiece. What isn't so great is the idea side of the movie. What idea was Polanski exploring? There is no central idea. For Polanski, the presentation of an idea isn't pivotal. He's not playing with ideas, and ideas aren't central to his movie. In that case, the obvious question would be, where does the plot of the 9th gate come from? It comes from a novel, The Club Dumas, written by Arturo Pérez Reverte. Polanski himself described it as a novel with 2 main plots, and many subplots which are strongly interwoven. Polanski focused on one of the main plots. His extraction would explain our predicament regarding parallels between the gates and the seals. It would explain why they fit so perfectly in some instances and not others. By extracting a smaller story from the whole, some of the cross-referencing was lost. Some of the mysteries are impossible to solve. unless you go through the book, but going through the book and looking for parallels would be more of analysis of the book than the movie. If you want a video about it, comment down below, but for now, that's it.